Here we are again.
We're back.
I'm so excited. I'm so glad we're both still here, living, breathing. You're creating. I get a chance to talk to you about that.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Always, Tate. I mean, I think, we spoke very early on.
Our first interview was when I was like 16.
You were really young and it was quarantine. It was early days quarantine. It was a virtual conversation. You were still at school. You were telling me at the time how you were trying to figure out how to graduate and be a pop star.
I was scratching by. I'm like, I just need to get through high school and then everything's going to be okay.
I think that was almost verbatim what you said in the conversation.
Yeah.
And you didn't. Here you are. You've made your third proper album and it's your best album.
Thank you. I'm excited. I can't believe it's like already here. I feel like it's come so quick.
Well, yes, because you don't stop. I mean, it actually, that's actually facts. I mean, you've done 3 back-to-back.
Yeah.
And you've toured really, really hard and really productively and really successfully in between.
Yeah.
I feel like none of this has been expected for you. And not beyond manifestation necessarily, but I mean, you love the work. You're like, perhaps get the most satisfaction out of seeing it with your own eyes rather than results being presented to you. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think the only way to enjoy any of this is if you fall in love with the process of it. If you end up thinking about every single result and thing that you're trying to get to, you're going to get there and feel really unfulfilled. And so it's just if you fall in love with the people around you, the process, the creating, which is what I love. I love being on tour. I love writing music. It's like I would choose that even if it wasn't my job. So, but
equally, I've seen a lot of artists have success like you did, where you work for it and then it happens. Greedy happens. You turn it into something that's substantial. The tour's a success. Everything feels good.
Yeah.
And they go through a period where the process starts to sort of fall back a little bit and everyone else starts to do the work because you're like, hey, I've got success now. It's kind of self-perpetuating. I don't hear that on this record. I hear somebody who actually is kind of reappraising a little bit about what that means.
It felt really in my hands this time. I really had a vision of how I wanted this to sound. I really had a vision on how I wanted this to be performed. I knew how my show wanted to look. Like I had it in my brain and I feel like in a sense I've articulated that. But lyrically, it feels like it's truly from me. It's the people that supported me and were around me were such a great help and inspired me so much. But I do feel like it was for me at the core. And
look, I mean, I think you've written your best songs here, and I want to talk about songwriting through this whole conversation. And but let's get back to the mood board. You said you really had an idea about kind of what you wanted this to sound like and feel like and ultimately look like. So where does it start?
Well, last year was kind of my first real tour where I was dancing, which is insane.
Yeah, because you made a dance album.
Yeah, I feel like, literally, I think it was like a year and a half ago now, like not even. I was playing like small clubs and literally had not introduced dancing into my music yet, which feels like so crazy. But I think you approach things differently when you think about the movement of it, when you think about performing it. I'm not approaching it from being in my bedroom anymore and being 15. I'm approaching it from being on stage and looking out to people and, seeing how it affects them. And so I think obviously I was writing a lot of this record throughout tour this year. And I just, I was wanting to perform these songs immediately. Even my first single, I was like, how do I see this coming out? And that almost inspired the writing process, which is so weird for me. Usually it comes from like a very like sad, painful, subconscious place. And this I felt like came from more of a alter ego, more of a performer state.
I think you've cracked the code on how you make records on the road. I think part of the problem is people think that they can recreate that sad, introspective bedroom environment when you're in hotels. And you can't.
No.
Right? Because you're in a different bed every night. You're in hotels, you're on buses, you're on planes. The whole thing is transient.
You're in a different mental space. It's your output button is always on. You're just giving. You're out. Like my extroverted self and my introverted self, which is how I usually am, are so different. Like you can't write from the same creative spot. You're just a different person. At least for me, it's like 2 different modes.
Yeah, you made the most of the opportunity you had to be extroverted by creating an album that feels more expressive in that regard. You can hear it on here.
Yeah.
And there are definitely introverted moments. Nostalgia might be your most introverted moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, nostalgia I feel like that was a perfect example of like me at the core. I think that's the most honest I've ever been on a song. Even I showed it to my parents and I'm like, don't take it too literally.
Because the names and faces will change and will be protected is not the case here. These are real people.
They're real people. And, I think I was hitting a point where sometimes you can live life just like every day feels the same. Every day feels like you're on autopilot. And then you're like, holy shit, I haven't taken any of this in. I'm not being present. And I had a discussion with my father about just, I was like doing all these questions. And I was like, oh, if there's anything you regret in life, or what do you wish you did, or how do you wish? And he was like, well, the reason that I raised you to like always pursue your dreams and your passions is because I felt like I wasn't necessarily able to quite do that when I was younger. There's so many things I wish I did. And I was like, oh, that's what a devastating thing is, that some people just like, don't do the things they love and things that they're passionate about.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
It's not a place anyone should get to in their life where they look back and focus on the things that they didn't do.
Yeah.
But that is the reality. And I think when you become a parent as well, if you get the balance between instilling in somebody that you care about more than anyone in the world and your kids that it's important not to live that way.
Yeah.
It sort of is a healing process for you in a way on the fact that you didn't get to do that. I don't know what his response was to you saying that feels really sad or having an honest conversation. That's between you two. But I can imagine it's been very healing for your father to see you go out there and live this life, because that's really what it is. It's about the handing down of knowledge.
Of course. And obviously my parents are so supportive. And it's just it's a great way for me to talk about this kind of stuff, because I feel like I get stuck in this place of either living way too far in the future or way too far in the past and reminiscing on who I used to be.
That, my friend, is called anxiety.
Yeah, I know. And that's where I feel like this song kind of stemmed from, as I was like hitting points. There's this one line in the record where I go, and I manifested you would leave, so the day you did, I had you beat. 3 steps ahead of everything.
I love that line, right? You're just trying to protect yourself at all times. But what you're actually doing is you're literally living in that environment before it's even unfolded.
Yeah, you're living on edge at all points of life, which is also a sad thing, living in the future.
I love that. The line I love is, and I bite my tongue 10 times a day, half swear to God, I just might pray. I've got a lot to lose, so I might as well lose it anyway.
Yeah. I think it was...
High five yourself on that one. That's a really, really beautiful writing.
Thank you. When I was like writing that song, I think like the half swear to God, I might just pray, is like everyone is like, oh, I need to find guidance somewhere in life. Right. And so I'm like, maybe I should pray tonight or something. And it's like, that's such a thing that you either choose to do or you don't do.
Right.
And so like half-ass that is a really crazy thing.
Yeah.
But when you're in a lost place in life, you're kind of just like, oh, maybe I should try meditation, or maybe I should try, and you're just in this lost area of doing absolutely nothing.
There's times when I've seeked guidance at certain points in my life that I don't feel I have the strength to find. Call it speaking to God, call it touching the universe, however you want to put it, whatever frame you want to put it through, relying on faith. And every now and then I'll question it too. I'm like, well, you can't just pick and choose when to show up. But then I've decided to make peace with that. I'm like, you get in where you fit in, and if you need it in this moment in your life,
of course,
then it will be receptive and open to you.
Yeah, you can't force it.
You can't force it, right?
No.
So how are you finding that balance between? I'm on a real severance buzz right now because I just interviewed.
Me too.
I just interviewed Adam Scott, so I've got my innie and outie.
Oh my
full
God,
balance.
I'm so jealous. We're so into it.
It's so good, right?
Yeah.
I have no idea what's going on, and I love it. And I absolutely love it.
So confused the whole time.
But how are your innie and outie relating to each other now? Because I remember very carefully talking to you on Think Later, and you were like, said you were trying to figure that part out. How does Tate at home deal with Tate, the person who now has an audience and is successful?
I feel really settled when I have like a spiritual connection with like the universe, and I feel like really in my body and really present. I journal a lot. I meditate a lot. I feel like the only way I can stay calm is if I believe like everything happens for a reason. That and everyone has their thing, like on how they stay sane in life and how they convince themselves that everything's going to be okay. But that's truly how I do. Is I believe that opportunities are always coming to you. I believe that signs are always there. I believe that your angels are always looking out for you. And
are you receptive to them, right?
I'm just very open to that. I believe in manifesting. I believe in all of that magic of life. And that keeps me excited. And I was talking about this with my friends the other day, like, I don't think you've ever really experienced like magic until you've like written a song or you've like created something or, made something up in your head, because that's when like magic feels so real. It's like in the studio when you make something, you're like, wow, that's magic. Like
it's where I agree. That is the space. I always panic when I feel I should, and then I have something else to do, and then I'm like, I just lost a lot of songs. Something just passed through me and disappeared, and I didn't grab it.
Ideas always come on a conveyor belt, and you can either choose to look at the conveyor belt and notice it.
Like sushi to go.
Yeah, or it's literally just going to be passed to the next table or past the next person.
I don't feel like salmon nigiri today. Let someone else write that song.
Someone else should take it.
Someone else should take that, but I will write the veggie spring roll.
Yes. Such a good example.
How is that food during recording sessions and budgets? I always wonder, do people eat when they're making music? It's a genuine question because
I don't.
Yeah, right?
I can't. But I'm also just like have a very like soldier mindset where like if I need to finish the song before I like can eat food. Amy Allen's the exact same way. We cannot eat food in sessions.
Yeah, she's a beast.
Mm-hmm.
Absolute beast. What do you two like in the room together? Do you have words that could describe the energy of when you're creating and you're in flow state?
Yeah, if you think about because me and her are both also pretty ADHD and like all over the place. In a session, think about like so many people with all these ideas and so many things to say and have just like the most ADHD of all time. And then there's me and Amy who like also have this, but we sit there and we're like, we have to finish a song before we can talk.
Yeah.
So we get in and we're like, if we talk for longer than 30 minutes, both her and I are like, we start to get like antsy.
How do you communicate the word no to each other? Directly, or do you find ways to keep it safe?
I feel like we both kind of have a sense of what each other are going to like in the room. But also you just got to be open to everything. Ideas, like you sometimes can sing something out in the room and it sucks and people are just like, there's just nothing. But if you sing something great and everyone's like, oh, wow. I feel like if you're like, no, that's like the most like demotivating thing.
Depends how you say it.
Yeah, it's like that cuts off all creative inspiration if you're like getting declined. You know?
Okay. Yeah. Declining is not fun.
No.
Have you walked out of a session and not come back?
Yes.
Wow.
When I was younger, a lot more. Now I like my collaborators.
Yeah, of course. You were in the speed dating process, and that sucks.
Yeah. So that I've definitely like been like, Mom, can you call me and say there's an emergency?
Wow, you got the fucking fake Uber.
I did do that. I've done that a few times actually.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Like I have to go. I'm so sorry.
Oh, okay. We're not going to name names because God bless those people. I wouldn't want to know who those people are. I feel bad for those people. But I mean, what sent you running? What was an example of something in a room that just made you go, Mom, I'm not sticking around?
Well, if you're just creating the worst song ever, that's not fun. Like you're just like, you can't stop it. And if they love it too.
Stop it. Once that train leaves the station, it's just shit all day.
Yeah. And they're just like, this is so good. And you're like, this is like not good. Can we, and if they like won't let you restart, you're like, well, what am I doing here?
Yeah. Well, they wouldn't do that now.
No. If I say like, this sucks, we start over. Like,
yeah, the speed date writing thing is fucking awful.
Yeah.
And it's like, everyone wants to get to know you immediately. And it's like, life isn't like that.
No.
Like, oh, let's just talk about your life. It's like, I just met you.
No, I can't. I have a hard time opening up like that. And then I think also just because I have such a small circle and because I only open up to like few people, it's almost like I don't want to explain anything to you. Just like let me sit in a corner for 2 hours and like write about it. And then you can figure it out. Because I don't have the time or the energy to explain every single random thought in my brain right now.
You save that for your friends and for your family.
Yeah, and for the song.
And are you open with your friends and family? Do you feel like you can be?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So close to my close friends and family.
Yeah, for sure. What song did you write on this record that really struck a chord with you, that you felt like took you to a place that was deeper than before? We talked about nostalgia, so maybe if that was one of them, is there another one?
Yeah, the song Purple Lace Bra was also just different for me. I've never written from the perspective of experiencing the good and the bad feelings of being a woman before. I think because I've just genuinely been too young before to even know that those feelings existed. But it was weird. I felt like I turned 21 this year, and you like step into your body a little more, and you feel sexy and confident and empowered. But then I also felt the repercussions of experiencing that on the internet. Like the media, this song really did feel like a conversation between me and the media, and being like, you're not listening to me.
Yeah, what did we get wrong?
Yeah, you're not listening to me. You're watching me. You're seeing like these videos of me dancing, and you're not listening to me as a songwriter, which is the most like important part to me. That's my soul. That's my
You told me on day
brain.
one that's what mattered to you.
Yeah, that's
on day one.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm a songwriter.
Yeah, and I still feel that way, and I felt like just a lot. I was just trying to explain myself over and over and over again, and I was like, God, no one's listening. They're just like only paying attention when I'm like dancing or when I'm whatever. And
But that's what I was going to say. Would you hear me more if I whispered in your ear? To me, says like if I wasn't if I wasn't performing at such a high level and making you look at all these things and acknowledge other parts of my abilities,
yeah,
would the words matter more? Is that what that line means?
well, I wrote this with Amy Allen and Emil Haney, who's unbelievable. One of the
I love Emil.
greatest.
See,
producers.
I knew Emil when he was New York Emil, and I've known Emil as LA Emil.
Yeah.
And then I've known him when he went back to New York and tried to be New York Emil again.
Whoa.
And now he's back to LA Emil.
Yeah, chill.
I've seen all the Emils.
Chill, LA.
You should have seen old school New York Emil.
Was he good?
Bowery Emil.
That's crazy.
It was great. He's great. He's always been great.
Yeah, he's one of a kind. I've been dying to work with him for so long.
He also has this amazing thing where he'll do, I wish I had my soundboard up. I need like a sound effect. I'll just create one. You'll have a beat going and he'll just do this thing where he'll go, and you go, what was that? And then
He'll put it in the song.
And
He'll
then
sprinkle it through the song.
And then like exactly 16 bars later.
Yeah.
And you're like, is that like is it a meerkat? Is it a hungry meerkat? Like, what is that?
You know what? And it's funny because I've been trying to recreate that in my music for years, and everyone thinks I'm crazy. And then Emil just automatically did
Earworms.
in the song, which was like so satisfying.
He does that shit where he just puts something in there that sounds totally out of context, and then but what it does, it's like a psychological thing that gets you to reconnect to the music.
Yeah.
When you're switching out of it, it brings you back in.
It also adds a lot of textures to like a light, airy pop record. It makes it feel gritty, and dark.
See, that's Bowery Emil.
Yeah, that's what I love and what I love in music. This song we kind of had, there's a couple meanings. We turned it into my conversation with the media, and then also this conversation with just like a partner, someone being like, you're not listening to me. Would you hear me more if I talk to you like sex? Like, would you actually pay attention? If it was
titillating, if it was something that appealed to you in a different way than just communication. If it was something appealing to you
because you're not looking at me and you're looking at me, you're not listening to me.
Yeah. It's a powerful observation.
Yeah. And it was really great to write this with such a incredible woman who I look up to so much, and I obviously admire her so much. So it felt really satisfying to find this perspective on this weird, painful feeling I was feeling, and, finish the session, be like, okay, that's exactly how I wanted it to be said.
When you played it to your boyfriend, he must have loved it.
He did love this song.
How many times have you actually collaborated with Leroy on a record?
We have written two songs together.
Okay, how has that changed? Like you're on, you've done something else. So how has that sort of changed now? Like you guys have created a really amazing space for each other as a partnership, and also you continue to thrive as individuals. Yeah. So coming through together and being able to collaborate now with some miles under your feet, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. As a couple, did it change the dynamic in terms of how you guys work together?
It felt really fresh. I mean, we've never sang in front of each other until August. I pulled him out for one of my shows, and it was so funny. We're sitting in sound check, and like neither of us.
I'm surprised you got through the song without cracking up the whole time.
Yeah, but I wouldn't look at him because I'm just like, this is insane. Like
I've done karaoke with my wife, and we just laugh the whole way when we do it.
Yeah, you just like I feel like I don't know what it is. It's like a mental thing where I just feel like he's never heard me sing, and I like to pretend that he doesn't know I'm a singer, but he does obviously know I'm a singer. So we were out doing this sound check. He's so nervous, and same with writing in the studio. Like we were just like, "Are you gonna listen?" He's like, "Yeah," but it was funny. It was wholesome. It was cute, but it was definitely like nerve-wracking for both of us who are usually so in our element and so like controlling in the rooms. We both were like, okay, who's gonna like lead the room?
That's amazing.
And we just try to not talk about work as much as possible, but it is hard when the conversation always leads back there.
Okay, that's a really interesting observation, right? You try not to bring your work home, but your work is fun, and you both do similar work in your own way.
Yeah.
But you choose not to.
Well, because sometimes it's your frustrations with work, and it's like, this is the most, one person could be thriving and be like, I just wrote the best song today, and I could be like, I'm so fucking annoyed with this right now.
Yeah, you got to be self-aware, right? Not self-awareness.
And then it's like this weird, like, well, do you want to hear the song? And I'm like, It's like
that is the greatest image. It's just like,
Literally.
oh man, I literally like, fuck man, I didn't finish that record and I don't think it's gonna make it on the album. Yeah, I'm having a great day. I just got a smash. You wanna like
no, literally.
just-
That's our dynamic sometimes.
Bless you. I mean, the fact that you both know that though is so healthy. It's so good to be able to say, hey man, I just don't have time for your hit right now.
Yeah, it's really funny. I'm like, let's play it in the car like tomorrow.
How's your spirit being, 5 solid years of real creativity and real travel and real work?
Yeah.
I mean, I say this as a compliment. You're one of the hardest working young artists making music.
Thank you.
I think you show the way. I mean, you show up and you always bring your best self if you say yes. Let me ask a question before we get to your spirit. How are you factoring in no? Are you entering into or near the era of no?
You know what? I would say I'm entering the era of no. I think I'm being a little more selective with what I do.
Thanks for coming through today. We appreciate still being on the hit list.
I mean, always.
Thanks.
I am being a little more selective because there's just a certain point where I can only spread my energy so thin. Like there's not enough time in a day. I can't be in a space where I've done 20 interviews and then I have to go to the studio and finish a record. Like,
yeah, right. I'm sick of myself.
I just can't look at myself. I have no real perspective on life because I'm just so in the space of analyzing yourself and so critical and it becomes this like paralyzing thing because I'm just like, oh my God, all I'm thinking about is like every single flaw and imperfection and people watching, and it feels really like out of your body. And the only way to write music is if I feel really in my body and really emotional and sensitive and in tune.
Well, this is all the more impressive that you've been able to create 3 albums in the midst of all of this change around you.
Yeah.
Because you come off the road or you're writing on the road. So, I mean, it's pretty clear that even on a bad day, you're able to compartmentalize to some degree.
Yeah. I think a lot of it is, like I said, picking and choosing where you go and who you spend your time with. Who I'm in the studio with is really important because it can either be the most beautiful and therapeutic thing ever, or it can feel like a chore and a job. And as long as you're just like making sure that I'm like, if I'm not in the mood to go in the studio, I'm not going to the studio, even though I go like 6 days a week. Like I it usually needs to be from a place of like, I really want to talk right now. If you don't, there's no point.
Let's talk about songwriting because, you've gotten to a place in your career now where 3 albums in.
Yeah.
You've found your voice on your early songs, figured out the path you want, and it's led you into rooms with real writers.
Yeah.
Julia, Amy, amazing, just the kind of writers who make the banality of suburban life sound exciting. And the most exciting days sound just normal.
Yeah.
They work in such incredible artistic contrasts and their detailed writing is amazing. So you're now at the table with these people writing songs.
Yeah. Well, Amy and Julia, I'm the biggest fans of. I've known Julia's music I've listened to for so long and have been the big... when I first came to LA, I'm like, oh my God, if I could work with Julia Michaels, like that would be a dream come true.
I think it's a really important detail, if I can just stop you for 1 second and just so we can all focus on that, because it shows that you didn't learn about the importance of songwriting once you started. That's where you wanted to go on day one.
Yeah. No, for sure. I think she was just kind of, she was definitely one of the factors of my songwriting when I was just writing in my bedroom. I think you pick up little things from each person that you listen to. And she was one of those people that her music I listened to all the time. So I think I would just naturally pick up little things of her writing. So now when we write together 5 years later, there's a really good synergy in the room. Like,
but who, as musicians, not just the people you get to collaborate with, who do you love? Like,
I'm a huge fan of SZA. I literally am obsessed with her. I love her. I think she's amazing.
She's another slice of life writer.
Yes, like her perspective is amazing. I love her melodies. They're just, my brain can't compute how she thinks of them.
She's like Frank Ocean, like that.
Yeah.
They paint on canvas.
For sure.
And then 4 days after you saw that painting, the light's different and you see a completely different side of the painting.
Totally. Yeah, no, I listen to her a lot. I love her. She's a big inspiration for me.
Who would surprise fans? Like, what do you listen to perhaps even just historically, that would surprise somebody, do you think? Like, did you go through like a My Chemical Romance phase, or were you like...
The weird thing is that I actually, my memory is so bad when it comes to like what I listened to when I was younger. I actually have no idea how to answer this question ever, because I listened to so much music in the dance studio, like ranging from like super old hip hop music to like classical music to every single pop song to exist, every single old pop song to exist, but I never knew the names or the artists. But if you play me songs, I usually know what it is. But I never knew what I was listening to.
It's interesting though when you get into things like dance and it becomes a part of who you are and a part of your life, that I guess when you walk in every day, whoever is training you, whoever is ultimately leading you, is throwing you things to see whether or not you feel it, right?
Yeah.
Is that how it is?
That happens. References get thrown. Ideas are tossed around.
And you have to translate it?
Kind of. Usually for me, it's like I sit down, I sit in my thoughts for like 30 minutes, and then subconsciously I have something to say, and I think of melodies. It's not very like, I don't walk into a room with exactly knowing I never know what I'm feeling. It's always a subconscious
You got to find your inner voice.
Yeah, I have to write the song in order to know what the hell I'm thinking, because I just really don't know until I write it.
Have you come up with any songs, concepts, or lyrics through meditation process?
The meditation is purely just for peace of mind, just to make sure that my brain isn't, running on a million thoughts. It's just a little bit of silence.
I've tried. I just keep trying, and I struggle to get over.
Really?
Through it, yeah.
With meditating.
Yeah.
I think if you think about silence, it never works. If you think about nothing, it never works. You have to think about like channeling something. Like picture.
No, this is good.
I sound like a little.
No, we're way past that. I mean, long before you were born, these kind of conversations were had, and people were like, "Oh, take your hippie meditation shit elsewhere."
Yeah.
I asked you. We're open here. Like, meditation's a thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what you believe in or whatever, but I feel like I just channel colors and lights and the universe, and that calms that gives me like calm. If I think about nothing, I spiral. Like that's where every thought comes into my brain.
Right. So that's the place where you can go and calmly experience peace.
Yeah, because that is the only thing that will like trump all my thoughts is a strong power and like chills and the feeling of like feeling re-energized. Like that is the only thing that will trump like every single thought in my brain.
Do you have vivid dreams?
Yes.
Did you really predict the Super Bowl
Oh
win?
my God. This went so viral. That was crazy. I will say.
Yeah. What happened?
Well, someone just asked me, they're like, if the Eagles in 2023, at the end of 2023, so after the Super Bowl had happened, like if the Eagles make the Super Bowl, what's going to be the score? I was like 40-22 and Philly's going to win. I don't know why I said that.
Something was going on.
But I do predict a lot of stuff in life. Like,
that's where I'm going. Like, are you a meditation sage?
You know what? I am a bit of a psychic sometimes. I will say that I dream things, they happen. I see things, they happen. And this has been since I was a little kid. But it's only when it's like turned on.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do your parents acknowledge this? Have they seen this in action? I mean, is this kind of part of the lore of the family?
Yeah, my mom kind of has it too.
What was the last dream you remember having that you can tell us right now that's not like super personal?
Well, okay, I had one like last year. This was actually right before I released Greedy, and like I felt like entered a new life era of my life. I had a dream where I was in a big ocean and it was black and everyone was on floaties and I couldn't find a floaty. And so finally I see a ladder and I go up the ladder and I get into a house and I meet a woman. It's like a haunted house, and she's like, oh no. And she like looks at me and she's like, you cannot be in here. And she's like, all the whatever. And I was like, why? And she takes me to this room and she goes, you're about to die. And then I remember being like, started sobbing. And then I wake up and I'm like, and I like asked one of my like healing people, and she was like, oh, this means like the birth of a new you. And I was
amazing.
Like, but that
thank goodness you asked.
I know, right? Otherwise, yeah, I'd be freaking out. But that I have a lot of those kind of dreams, and I have when I was younger, just that I feel like mean a lot.
I've just started dreaming again. Like for a long time, I would never remember any dreams, and they've been kind of vivid lately. It's been pretty interesting.
Wow. And you remember them?
Yeah, some of them. But the recurring one I have is that I'm showing up late for a maths exam and I haven't studied and I didn't realize it was happening. I think it's pretty common. School was traumatic for me.
Yeah. That means something. You should search it up.
It means school sucked. That's what it means. I never want to go back to
Me neither.
formal education.
Yeah, no.
Let's talk about the album title, right? Yeah. I want to know what So Close to What kind of means to you. This idea of it always just being slightly out of reach. And is that okay?
I just felt that way a lot looking into my life as a 21-year-old this year. Just feeling like I was pursuing this career that, like what I was talking about at the beginning, like you have to fall in love with the process because you feel like sometimes you're working towards this never-ending finish line or this finish line that actually doesn't exist. And you could get to these milestones that you think about forever and you get there and you're like, okay, why do I not feel satisfied with myself yet? Why do I not feel good enough yet? Why do I not? And I just think that was a reoccurring theme in my life in relationships, being like, oh, I have to do this again now. I just got heartbroken and now I have to re-fall in love. I have to reintroduce myself to someone. And I'm just like, oh, life just kind of felt like this revolving door, this never-ending road, this visual that I was just like, you have to define where you find your happiness because life isn't going to do that for you. It doesn't make little marks or like, good job, you made it to this point. It's
because that's a control thing because of the anxiety. That's at least for me what it's always been. Is like if I get to that place, I won't be anxious because I've achieved the thing I was trying to control, but
it doesn't exist. And you could achieve hypothetically like the biggest thing you've ever imagined in your brain, and if you're mentally not there and you mentally have not changed, it still is going to feel the exact same way as if you were to do something tomorrow.
Yeah,
you know.
You got to let go. That's and that's a lifelong practice.
Yeah.
Would you consider yourself historically to be somebody who experiences anxiety, forms of anxiety?
I would say so. I didn't used to when I was younger, but I think, especially in the music industry, it feels like you always want to do more and you always want to be better and you always want to look better and sound better and write better. And there's like, it's like when you finish an album, you could make an art piece that's so beautiful and then rip it apart to shreds until it's gone. And it loses all the magic. So it's like, when is the moment you stop? When is the moment you're satisfied? When is the moment it's enough? And that's like an ongoing question that I've felt in this industry.
That is it. I mean, how do you know the painting's finished and how do you know what to do with it? And then it's the execution is the bravest part.
Yeah.
Is it hard not feeling feelings of competitiveness, especially being a young person in the industry, even with people you admire, to not be drawn into that thing that happens primarily on the playground? Where it's like, someone's doing better than me. How do I get past them?
Of course. I mean, I think that's a very miserable way to look at life because I do think that things happen to people at the right time and when you're ready for it. I mean, there's so many things that have happened now that I wanted when I was 16. And then I did it at age 19 and I'm like, oh my God, imagine if I did that at age 16, like that would have been horrible. So I do have that belief that everything happens at the right time, which I think allows me to not have that comparison mentality all the time. But the one thing that I think is really hard for me is this underlying perfectionism that I've had in me since being a ballerina and being a dancer, that I have a hard time ever being happy with how I danced or how I sang or how it's like that's the competitive part of me, is it never feels like good enough.
Did you think you had that and you were drawn into an artistic and expressive place where you could attack it? Or do you think that was something that you picked up after you realized that you'd moved into an environment where there is such a dedication and on practice and being perfect, like you say, being a ballerina? They're called prima ballerinas for a reason. So which came first, do you think?
I think I've always just had this...
hard on yourself.
I've always been hard on myself. I've always been... Like, I remember waking up at 8 years old at like 6 a.m. doing like 500 crunches to like make sure that I was in more shape than my brother, which is crazy at 8 years old. So I think just like as a dancer, as an athlete, like having that kind of like household, like you can drive yourself a little crazy. And I think as I've gotten older, like that's just kind of still in me.
Still in you.
Yeah.
But I guess awareness is a good place to be, right?
Yeah.
And so going through life now, being aware that that's a part of how you think of yourself.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you're on the right road, like that you're able to kind of find a little more equilibrium away from that self-fulfilling pressure cooker environment, and you're able to enjoy it a little more, be present?
For sure. I mean, I have that part of me, but I also think that part of me is what makes me make stuff that I'm proud of.
Yeah.
Because
it's such a fine line, right?
It's such a balance. Like I wouldn't ever wish for this part of me to go away, because I think that's what makes me have a motivation for life and makes me love what I'm doing in life.
Sure, my obsessive compulsive disorder was great fuel. Great fuel.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's so there's that part where some days I wake up and I'm like, oh, this is like a pressure cooker of anxiety and feels terrible. And then some days I'm like, oh wow, like I feel like I could do anything because I have this fire inside of me, and I would never wish for that fire to go away.
Great things go in threes, magic number.
Yeah.
3 albums in, you're going to go out on another tour right now. You're taking great people. Thanks for taking one of New Zealand's finest out on the road. Benny's awesome.
Love her.
So does it feel like a trilogy to you, this, or does it feel like it frees you after this album, or am I just putting too much math on it?
I feel like the albums aren't as like connected as I think this album feels just like an evolution from my last one. I feel like I'm just changing a lot right now, and I have been the last couple of years. Every year I feel like a different person.
Yeah.
And I think that this album feels different, and this tour, I want it to feel different. My second year dancing on tour, doing arenas, just feels exciting. I'm so excited to create the show. I can't wait to build it and dance and choreograph it. Like that is what fuels me for everything. So
it's your best album. I mean, I was talking to Jeff before, and we were talking about our favorite songs, and he mentioned, I don't know if I'm allowed to blow up his spot and say what one he likes or doesn't like. Can I get a thumbs up from the chorus room, please? He loves Greenlight.
Yeah.
And maybe you already knew that.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you know this about Jeffrey. He doesn't really like music.
Yeah, no, not at all.
So when he says he likes a song, it's like, whoa, he likes a song. This is unbelievable. He actually likes a song. So let's talk a little bit. He's not even smiling at that. Guy's fucking killing me right now. He's literally killing me. Let's talk about that song though, because I love that song as well, and I feel like it's the perfect lead into nostalgia. And I feel like the album really, it knows itself by the time Greenlight comes along. It's like I kind of know what I am if the album was a person.
Yeah, Greenlight. To me, was a perfect way to describe the feeling of falling in love again and being terrified to do that. I just remember walking to the studio. I wrote this by myself. I was sitting in a corner, not knowing how I felt about this new relationship that I was in. I felt really happy and excited, but I also had like this...
This is your current relationship.
Yeah, I just felt like this ball of doom inside of me, being like, oh my God, like I really don't know if I can do this again, because this is so, I just don't want to get hurt again. It was like that fight or flight mode again, where I was like, oh my God, I'm not ready. And I was just singing and hearing these chords play, and I just kept humming, I'm still waiting at the green light, tell you what I feel like, but I can't go. And
oh, it's such a good line.
I thought that was a really cool metaphor, especially with this road that I kept seeing and this concept of the album, because I was just like, everyone is telling me that it's okay. All the signals are telling me it's okay. Every sign is saying I can go. There's a fucking green light telling me to push the gas, and I can't fucking push the gas. And that, I think, just proves how us as people are just a reflection of our past, and how that fully shapes who we are.
So people who are going through something as similar to this, which is an everyday occurrence for everybody in every walk of life, right?
Yeah.
I know this is going to be an exciting moment in my life, but I'm not entirely sure I have the courage to be able to go forward.
Yeah.
What was the tipping point for you when you decided, you know what, I'm going to drive? Staying with the metaphor.
Staying with the metaphor. I mean, I think this song really helped me find a lot of perspective, because I realized it wasn't the person, it wasn't me, it was merely just the past and my fear, and that helped me find some perspective on it.
What's Blood on My Hands about?
Blood on My Hands was one of the last
Fire, by the way.
Thank you.
Flo Millie, by the way, came through.
I know, she sounds so good. I honestly just wanted to do a Miami-based record so bad.
Yeah, it's as simple as that.
That's honestly all I wanted.
It should be.
Nothing too much more than that. Honestly, we were just in New York. my whole album had gotten leaked on the internet.
Oh yeah, leaked this. How'd you feel about that?
I was devastated.
Yeah, because it is. Because by the way, people who think that it's old hat and leaking records and who gives a shit and fix your face and get over it, I want the music and you should be happy I want it. Man, you put so much into this.
Yeah, and sometimes I'm just like, oh, whatever. I write a million songs. And when this album got leaked, I just realized how much these songs were actually stories about my life, and they meant so much to me.
You didn't get to tell them the right way.
And I didn't get to tell them the right way, and they're personal stories that I'm like, you guys, this isn't yours yet.
Who leaks music in 2025? I mean, what is this, 2000? What is this, Napster?
It was really, I just remember
crazy.
I was at
what do you get, $500 for leaking a record now? It's not even like that. I mean,
I was at dinner and I was just like in New York. I was like, oh my God, my whole album just got leaked. What the fuck?
How do you find, I wouldn't even know how you find this out.
Luckily, my fans are nice and they sent me a DM and they said your album just got leaked. And this was the one notification from the one fan that I get on my DMs. And whatever, I got this message.
Your stomach must have dropped.
Started sobbing. I was like, I don't think I haven't cried this much in like 5 years. And I felt bad.
Good for you.
I felt bad for Leroy because I kept being like, I'm fine. And then he'd be falling asleep and I'd be like, watch me cry.
Watch me cry.
I'm so sad. And I was really devastated. So then I was like, well, fuck it. Let's book some studio sessions. I'm not going to. And so I wrote a couple more songs.
Good.
And finished the record how I wanted it to be finished.
The thing about us as music fans is, sure, we're all excited and we want shit, but we want it when you want to give it to us.
Yeah.
It's not about the music, just the music. It's about the extension of the relationship that people have with you and your music.
Yeah.
And it's only really special when you give it to us because it's a gift.
Yeah.
It's not for us to take.
Yeah.
So it won't make any difference.
Well, and that's honestly, it sparked some new creativity. I was like, you know what? Now's the time to make Miami bass record.
And leak this.
Yeah. So I went in
and
I wrote that song. I got Flo Milli on it, and I think it's such a fun record. And honestly, it's just like, it was, I've always wanted to do a song like that. So
Tate, I always enjoy hanging out, talking with you, and you were so generous when we first spoke, given that you were still at school and trying to figure it out, and I'm just like, so who are you? And you're like, I don't know, I'm figuring it out. But this is easily the most fun time that I've had talking with you, and it makes sense because the music is so good. So
thank you.
I hope you always come back and see us when you've got things to talk about and music to play, and we really appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.